Good morning. My name is Dr. Susan Feneck, and I'm the CEO and founder of Juvenile Justice Impact, and thank you all for being here. We have Matt Byron, Connor Byron, Kelly Simpson, and Glenn Woodcock. And Matt Byron is the founder of Evolution Art, Evolution Builders, and Evolution Carpentry, right? That's a lot.
It's a mouthful. Yeah.
Oh my God, make sure I got them all. And thank you all for being here. And so, Matt, tell us a little bit about your organizations and your staff.
Okay. Organization, we've been in business almost 10 years. Our original iteration was called Blue Tree Enterprises. And that started, my son and I started that together in January of 2013. I had been out of prison for what?
Year and a half?
Not even a year and a half. I've been off parole for a couple months when we started the company. Started in the backyard of an apartment, and then the neighbors got irritated with us running skill saws and stuff. And then we moved to a 10 by 20 storage unit and stealing a 100-foot extension cord to run power. And that lasted for, about 2 months before they were like, listen, dude, you can't do this here anymore. So then we got our first shop, and that was scary as hell because we could barely pay rent, and we took on what we thought was colossal $600 a month payment to have a shop to work out of. And then we started taking on more employees. We landed a couple of good contracts with the national contractor doing remodel work. Went from he and I about 6 guys, then 8, then 20. We started flipping houses in 2014, 2015. Started working in 3 different states. So we were here, California, and Colorado. And then we fell into the whole art business, purely by accident. We were contacted by a local art gallery, and they wanted us to fix a bunch of picture frames that they had gotten that were damaged, and they couldn't get fixed anywhere else. We did that, and then it was, Oral Hershiser baseball camp, and they wanted us to make
Kell Jr.
Yeah, Kell Jr. And we did a baseball.
We painted like 75 baseballs orange. Put them on the board. That's what they wanted.
And so that turned out, and then it went from that to, can you make a gigantic Connect 4 game? And we made that. And then it was, well, you think you can make this 30-foot tall steel periscope that looks at Alcatraz? And yeah, I'll figure it out. So we made that, and and then all of a sudden we went from being nobody to being a relatively well-known name in the national art world. And then my background originally, I was a framing carpenter when I got here in 1990, and so I've always been in the construction trades. And the state, in their infinite wisdom, when I first got out, I tried to get a contractor's license when we started the company, and went through this whole process, and they said no. So come back in 5 years. So 5 years and 1 day, I went back and reapplied, and I got my first contractor's license, and then got a second contractor's license. And so now we have Evolution Art, the art company, Evolution Builders, the general contracting firm, and Evolution Carpentry, which is a C3 licensed contracting company. So we went from 1 bay to 2 to 3 to 4 bays. Then we moved into a new shop over on American Pacific, and then lease came up on that, and now we moved into here. So we've gone from 4,000 square feet to 6,000 to 8,000 here. So it's just been a slow, steady, consistent growth over the last 8-9 years.
And some of the artwork is absolutely stunning. I mean, I know these are just small examples, but what's on your website is just, it's just so beautiful.
So that's the periscope I was talking about. This is probably our most recognizable piece, is this piece that's in the main entrance lobby for the Strat.
Beautiful.
It's 27 feet long, 26 feet long, 8 feet tall, 8 feet deep.
And you made that right here in the back?
Yep. And the cool part was how we shipped it. It was just wide enough to fit in the back of the biggest U-Haul truck they had.
I was going to say, how do you transport that?
The funny thing was, we had
About
4 guys.
Yeah.
We had 4 guys inside the back of the U-Haul truck, and we're like 3 in the morning, we're driving to the stratosphere, and I can just imagine we get pulled over by the cops.
Really, we're just transporting the
4 ex-convicts in the back with us. Yeah, it was, but we actually had to cut open a wall of the casino to get this thing in, because there was no doorway big enough. None of the doorways were big enough for us to get it through.
Right.
So, we're a unicorn in the art world because we have this ability, because we have multiple contractors' licenses. So we understand a lot of the technical things that most artists don't care about. Backing to hang something from, is enough backing in the wall, the door opening's big enough, can we cut a wall open and put it back together? And so we've also, the installation of other people's artwork has become kind of a cornerstone for what we do as well.
Wonderful. Well, congratulations on your success. That's a lot.
Thank you. Well,
it's a lot, and it's a lot of growth. Sometimes you see these commercials where, a company starts out in their garage and then they're like, now what do we do?
Yeah.
And then we got to get just like you got to get someplace bigger and then bigger. So
literally, we
these are good problems, right?
Yeah. In the backyard of our apartment, we took a stick and drew a big square and said, okay, this is the shop. Set up 2 sawhorses and a piece of plywood, and that's like literally where it started.
That's incredible. It's just amazing.
Yes, but it's
very inspiring.
I don't want to say it's always been fun. You can tell the look on Kelly's face.
Some growing pains along the way.
Hasn't been without its challenges. Yeah, we're still, we'd like to get to the point where we're not bootstrapping, but I keep expanding and expanding. At some point, we're going to look for some outside investment money to be able to kind of somebody that can finance growth.
Right.
So that's kind of the next phase of where we're at. The real story is not me, though. The real story is these guys. And we have 2 other guys that aren't here, Chris Kania and Bobby Jensen. And Bobby and I did, we ended up in county jail together the same day. And so we kind of did our whole run, so county jail, and then we were in prison together. He got out about 18 months before I did. And then, I ran into Bobby on the street. Hey, what are you doing? What do you say? I'm looking for a dress. I got you. Come on. Chris Kane is another amazing example of. Chris came to me second day sober, just a shell of a human. He'd been, running and gunning, drinking and cracking, but was this amazing human. But he was just broken. Right. Now Chris is married, 2 houses, stepkids, vehicles, horses, just like just a picture of normalcy, right? Mm-hmm. And Chris is involved with AA, and through that process brought Glenn, and Glenn has just been a godsend for us as cabinet designer. I mean, he's a crotchety old bastard, but you heard that, right? Yeah.
You heard it here first, right?
Sorry. That's that might have been a mistake.
So tell us a little bit. You said 4 ex-cons.
Yeah, well, myself and Bobby.
Tell us some of your experiences of your imprisonment and some of the justices and injustices.
So Bobby's the only other ex-con currently on the payroll right now. He and I are the only 2. Kelly's had a pretty storied history in the juvenile justice system. but Kelly laughs. So actually, Kelly was on probation. I had just gotten out of prison. I'm on parole, and it's Connor and I living in this apartment together. And Kelly needed a place to live, so he came and lived with us. And he was on.
I had to go and see the judge just to get it okay to be able.
Yeah, get a dispensation to be able to live with me as an ex-con on parole. And as it turns out, his probation officer and my probation officer were the same person.
Oh my goodness! What's the chances?
Yeah, but it turned out that we ended up having. We still have. I mean, I still talk to him 4 times a year. He'll show up here and comes in the door with his gun drawn because he was just playing around, but he's like, I don't know, this is a pretty bad place. But he calls me, I call him, and we're trying to help somebody. He's trying to find somebody that needs help, and so we built this relationship with him that really started over us both trying to make sure that Kelly, got his shit together, and as he obviously has, married, bought a house, beautiful little boy. Everybody's kind of, we're normal. I mean, well, as far, but what is normal, right? So, what else would you like to know?
Well, before we started rolling with the podcast, we were having this incredible conversation about some of the experiences that you had that you felt were that were not fair. So,
well,
and
yes.
I know
so
from speaking
talk about getting released from prison, right?
Yeah.
That whole. So, I did the whole run. I started off in Supermax at High Desert, Unit 2, worked my way through the system, made it to fire camp, spent, a year in fire camp, even more maybe?
Probably.
So a year at fire camp, made it to the halfway house of Casa Grande. I only spent 60 days there, but when you're there, I got a job working in a movie studio, so I'm doing the whole work release thing and doing it right, and then they give you this packet when you're getting ready to parole, and it's all these quasi-resources. And it all turned out to be a bunch of BS. None of the resources were real. Nobody, none of the job connections were real. Nobody could get you work. And we all know that there's three things that you need coming out of the system. You have to have a job, a real job that pays you at least a semi-livable wage. You got to have a safe place to live that doesn't put you back in the neighborhoods that you were in when you got into trouble. And you got to have a way to be able to get to that job. Without those things, you get $287 gate money. What are you going to do with $287 when you get out of prison? You're going to get on the bus and you're going to go find the first lick you can find so you can go find a place to live, right? Yeah. So part of the downside of the system is that there's resources that are pretended to be available, and there are companies that supposedly provide these resources that get a ton of government funding, but none of that money actually ends up trickling down to the convict getting out that really needs the help. At least in my experiences. Other people may have had different experiences, but I know a bunch of ex-convicts, and we've all had the same experience, same bitch. I'm just lucky as hell that every conceivable broke my way. But it doesn't happen like this for most guys, right? I was just fortunate, and that, I'm fortunate to have been reasonably well educated. I grew up in a family of educators, went to high school, graduated high school, went to college, graduated college. So I was not kind of the typical convict. But, there were plenty of super smart guys that I was in prison with that weren't, rapists or killers or, but they don't have, especially if you're a person of color, right. Hispanic or black, your opportunities are far less than mine. So, finding a path forward, how to make those resources become real is an important thing.
So you get out and there's a packet of all these resources to help you, and then they didn't.
None of it materialized. So you go to Resource X and they teach you how to write a resume, and then they send you to Goodwill and you get a pair of slacks and a dress shirt. So now you can look presentable to go for an interview. But none of the places that you interview for, unless you go to the laborers union or you go to some of the hotels, will hire ex-convicts. But they don't give you a resource center where you can go to the Luxor and speak to this person in HR that will consider hiring ex-offenders, right? So they're getting all this funding, but they don't drill down the resource to a finite point where you can actually go and talk to somebody that's willing to consider giving you work. So those are the issues and it seems to me like a pretty simple thing that could be easily corrected but everybody's making money on these things except the people that need the help.
Did you guys experience the same?
Well, they've not come through the system. But I know Bobby experienced the same. That's why Bobby's working for me.
Right.
Because he couldn't find a meaningful job going through the quasi-resources that they supposedly have.
You can go get a job at Burger King as an ex-felon. What are you going to go do? Make $8 an hour? And then end up doing the same shit you were doing because you're broke?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's essentially what it comes down to is even, A lot of guys will get sober. That's the thing that we're all about here.
Right.
And we're very clannish about this and protecting this and protecting all of our sobriety, right? Because it's the only thing that allows us to function in the real world and not go back to the, because we've all done terrible things in the, in pursuit of getting high, right? So that accountability to each other, to the business, to the future is what's made this able to, grow and thrive and keep moving forward. How, Glenn?
That is correct. I come from a little bit different background. I came out of the drug court program when I got in trouble. And I could not stay sober. I could not get any type of long-term sobriety in drug court. And I was there as a one-year program. I was there for 4 years, going in and out, and getting sober, and then going back out. And I ended up running for about 4 years. And when I was rearrested and I got put back into drug court, originally I was looking at 6 years of prison. All I had to do was complete the drug court program, and I could not stay sober. I just couldn't do it. They recommended that I go to a 12-step program, in which I did. We observe strict anonymity to that program. So even though that I've stayed in that program, I've been sober for 20 years, but the cool thing about the 12-step program in drug court is that when they told me to go to the 12-step program, and they didn't care which one, I picked one, I've stayed there, but I've never picked up a drink or a drug since. It has changed my life.
That's incredible.
I am one of 4% of the people that go to a 12-step program that don't go back out. I am in the upper part of their general service platform of the program. I am one of 93 people in the entire country and the country of Canada that gets to serve in the capacity that I get to serve in.
Congratulations. I mean, that's quite
And
an accomplishment.
I am surrounded every day by people that have recovered, that do not use.
Glenn's ability, so Glenn provides a certain level of leadership because of that experience. And Kelly's a good example. Kelly was a heroin addict, right? And when you first started coming to me, you had been clean for what?
Very short amount of time.
Months, right? Not even weeks, right?
No,
months.
A couple months.
And so this whole clannish thing that Kelly and I have, and Connor and Kelly and I have, comes from, and I've only been sober, I've been sober for the 4 years that I was in prison, and then for the year that I was on parole, but then all of a sudden I'm off parole, and now I got nobody over my shoulder. That's when a lot of people slip, right? Because you got nobody forcing you. You're not held accountable in a legal fashion for your sobriety. So it was cool that we all kind of like found this thing at similar times and were able to, stick to it and build this thing together, which has been fun. You might want to ask him about his perspective as the only non-offender in the room. And as the son of, I'm a 5-time felon, 2-term ex-convict. His childhood was marked with long stretches of my absence, which has had a huge effect on him. He didn't finish high school because, he wasn't getting the level of guidance that he needed while I was gone.
He's like, I'm doing okay.
Getting married, 2 kids,
Doing just fine, really. High school dropout, made it a month in the 10th grade. Here we are.
It makes a great living and no student debt.
College, no.
So that's another big thing that, you'll see on my Facebook page, I promote all the time, trade schools, learn a trade, join a union, do something, because, 4 years
I
of
don't get a job
apprenticeship.
anywhere doing this kind of work with 0 GED, college education, none of that stuff. Trade.
Right.
Making, 60, 70 grand a year, company truck, the whole shooting match.
Nice.
These guys have the ability to make as good or a better living than guys coming out of college with a 4-year degree, and they have no debt.
I make better money than my high school teachers.
Yeah.
I believe it.
Yeah.
And no, I mean, that's just going back to your story, that's just incredible, and congratulations. I know I've had experience working in the behavioral health hospitals and have seen a lot of the reasons why they continue to come back is because of their relapsing so often, and they have a lack of services to really help them. Like you were talking about before, when you were on your way out, they said here's all your services, but the services weren't available.
Right. Well, it was a circular chasing your tail that led to no forward progress. And then that makes people, and you take a person that's got some stunted growth mentally, emotionally because of an addiction,
Sure.
and they just come out of a highly toxic incarceration environment, and then the only thing they have to hold on to, the hope is real, is these resources that turn out to be bullshit. And then you want to talk about somebody that's already on the edge to begin with. Well, that's a great trigger for somebody to relapse both back into the drug world, but back into the world of violence, back into the world of crime.
Just like you were saying, if you have a record, then, I've seen it. They go through this checklist.
Yeah.
Felon,
most places that'll hire an ex-felon are going to pay you a minimum wage and then treat you like a minimum wage. And it's really hard to advance or do anything in life.
And so, when I got out, I got a job at a movie studio.
Making $10 an hour. And we were struggling.
As a janitor. And I was, at that point, I had 20-year carpentry skills. I'm a master carpenter. I can build anything, from houses to boats. And nobody would give me a job. It was $8.50 an hour, remember, to start, and then I got the raise to 10, and we thought we were doing big things. I went from being a $25 an hour carpenter, and then, at the end of my career, I was a $40 an hour superintendent, to having to be a janitor making $8.50 an hour.
Coming out of prison, no vehicle, no tools, nothing.
What drove you? What was your inner drive?
Pride, knowing that I had disability. When I started the first company, my parents, God love them, were like, dude, what are you doing? Like, dude, stick with the job. Like you can't do it. I can't do it. I can't let somebody dictate to me what my value is when I know what it is. I know what my ability is. Fuck you. Use the language, but no, I'm not doing that. So we put together we had $400 scraped together. We started the LLC, and then we saved our pennies for about 2 months from doing a bunch of work, and had the $600 to move into the new space, and hanging on by our fingernails.
We had a bench, a workbench to start.
Literally,
I like how you took out the space in the backyard.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I love that, the stories where, the little corner of the backyard is where we're going to put our one bench. Mm-hmm. And now, we're not doing a video here, but I'll tell you, this place is massive. Mm-hmm. This is not your backyard square. That's for sure.
Our backyard was the size of this office.
Yeah. This was the size. This was the size of the backyard that we were working on.
But you all came together, and you all inspired each other, and you all supported each other. That sounds like the biggest thing, really. Yeah. And
it's not without bumps in the road. We were just split up a partnership with. I had some investor partners that we just split up from, and in their infinite wisdom, they put a bunch of money into the company, and then COVID hit, and then so we built this beautiful race car. And had this amazing facility to keep it in, and paying all the guys top wages and health insurance. And then COVID hit. And so instead of trying to keep gas in the car so we could keep it moving, said, no, we're not putting any more money in. So they dumped a bunch of money, and I put a bunch of money in. I matched them dollar for dollar, so we put up $250,000. And then we got this beautiful race car with no gas. So we're pushing the thing around the track for a year, and finally I just got pissed off and crashed it. All right, don't want to put any gas in it. So then we took the engine and all the valuable parts out of that old crashed race car and built a new race car that cost half as much to run, and it was twice as fast as the old race car. And But we've had some. He and I brawl pretty good sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. We've had a couple.
Yeah, and he and I go at it too pretty good sometimes. He's kind of
win
like
every time.
Who wins?
Me.
yeah,
He's always wrong.
yeah, that's the life.
Keep it on the record.
That's the life of being a boss, right?
Well, you guys are all very inspiring, because I mean, sometimes people, I can't imagine, you were in prison for all those years. You were, what, 7?
Yeah, 7 total.
7 total. And you said 5
5 in the state.
5 in the state, 2
4
in the federal.
in and 1 out in the state, 1 on parole, and then I did just shy of 20 months in the federal system fighting a drug case that finally get dropped.
When you hear that sentence, what goes through your mind knowing that you're going to be locked up for all those years? I mean, what's
Prime
the
relief that it wasn't longer.
really?
Yeah. So
Really?
Yeah, because a lot more's hanging over your head.
That's a great question because I when I get to the sentencing part of it, because I had 2 burglary cases.
They're told a 5 to 10, right?
Yeah,
A what?
a 5 to 10.
5 to 10 years
Oh.
for each charge you can possibly get.
Oh my goodness.
So I knew at the low end I was going to do 5, and at the high end I was going to do 10. And so, and when you go from county jail, they take you, they put you in these particular holding cells, and there's like 8 of you that get shipped up, and they do 4 trips a day. And so there's 8 of you in a van, and you don't know, and they tell you don't talk to each other because you don't know what the crime the other person's committed is, and if somebody's got a sex crime, they won't even survive the bus ride. Right? And so you get up there, and when you get up to high desert and you get brought into the intake, it is brutality at its best. So you're waist chained and ankle chained, and they get you in, nose against the wall. Anybody that turns from the wall will be taken as an act of aggression, will be treated accordingly. And of course, some poor smart pulls his head off to look at, ping, pow, boom, ping, pow, bam, bam. They beat the dog shit out of the guy. Then they drag him by his feet and stick him in one of the holdings. And that is your first 10 minutes in the penitentiary.
And that's before you get your sentence.
No, that's after you've been sentenced and you're getting there. But when you first walk in the gate,
Right.
and I get why they do that. They have to do it. They got to, you can't. They have to have that absolute authority and show you right from the get go. There's no wiggle room in this. And then so you deal with that, and now you're in this totally caustic environment, and you always have a gun pointed at you. You're never not under the gun when you're in Supermax. When you travel, when you eat, the only time you don't have a gun directly pointed at you is when you're in the cell. But if you're out on the yard, or if you're out on the tier, you have people pointing guns at you the whole time. So the whole expression "under the gun," that's where it comes from. And so that it's like the shock of that, the first week, that shock, right? And having to get your mind around all of that. And then also it's 1 week out of 250 weeks. So you learn to not look at time in days, weeks, even months. And that takes 6 to 8 months to be able to get your head around that reality. So you got to think in terms of years. There's a guy that gets 20 or 30 year sentence. Now he's not thinking in terms of years. He's thinking in terms of decades. So how you perceive time and what you do with that time, it's just that people in civilian life have zero concept of how do you not get crushed by that. And there are guys that do all the time. You hear guys just screaming, banging, and it's just every day that this goes on. People just banging their heads against the cell door, banging the cell doors, or flooding their cells because they just can't deal with that crush.
And you were telling me before we started recording that you're running with your share of violence. You had
I got stabbed in the face in a race riot. right over my right eye, and I was doing dips, and the black guy came up and tried to stab me in the eye, and I ducked just in time and flicked me. And then he got murdered for stabbing me. And I'd never met the guy, didn't know anything about the guy, but because I was white, and because it was a race riot.
How do you, I can't imagine, like you said, a civilian can't imagine, but how is it that when you get out, I mean, all of those, everything you saw, everything you physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, getting stabbed in the face, I mean, seeing other people getting killed, I mean, how is it when you're going through your daily life right now, are there times that you're still struggling with all of the
trauma?
The trauma
of
everything that happened
yes.
from that very first 10 minutes of getting off the bus, right?
It's ex-convicts suffer the same level of PTSD that a service member who's seen combat do. Now, you can't compare them because these guys are in service of our country and we're criminals, right? But the trauma that you experience is identical. You ask any psychologist and they'll tell you it's identical. You know, and most guys in prison see more death than most guys in service, you know, because only a small percentage of service guys are actually combat.
And so the guy that killed, the person that killed the person who stabbed you, now while they're in there, do they get a murder charge?
It all depends, right?
It all depends, and it wasn't just one guy, 10 guys.
So then they, after an incident like that happens, then they would just go get resentenced again and have more time?
So a guy that's got life, he doesn't give a shit.
Yeah.
You're going to do another life sentence?
Another one?
Go ahead, stack them up. I'd rather kill a piece of shit than not. You know, I'm never getting out. So what are you going to threaten me with another life sentence? Go ahead and threaten me. And that's the mentality.
Mm-hmm.
You know, one thing that you never talk about, especially when you're in Supermax, is your time, what your sentence is. You get a lifer, you know.
Yeah, next to you, they don't hear about how you have 10 years. They're never getting out.
No. And they'll kill you just because, or you know, I never clicked up with the gang, and that's part of the reason why I got stabbed, because I didn't know that the riot was coming. If I had been clicked up, they would have given me a heads up, but I wasn't willing to do any of the shit that they would want you to do to be part of that. I'm not doing crime for anybody. I'm in prison. I'm trying to get out.
Right.
I'm not trying to stay forever, you know. So, and I've never been about anybody really telling me what to do.
How do you cope with that level of trauma? I
don't know. That's a great question. Am I coping with that? At some level, I mean.
Just have your good days and your bad days.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I just compress it all. It's just. I compressed it all, and now there's a couple of little boxes in my brain where that lives, and you know, once in a while it'll leak out. And, you know, I don't spend a lot of time with these. I spend most of my time with these guys, but when I'm not here, I spend most of my time by myself. I guess that's how I cope. That I run, I play ball. I have some really great relationships that I've built around athletics.
Nice.
That help. But yeah, for the most part, I'm by myself.
Well, you guys have a great team here, and you all are true survivors, seriously, and that's what ultimately the universe brought you together for. Sometimes if you think about how you've met someone, how you met them, like, you know, because we were talking about Catherine Triplett, you know, who we both love like family, you know, and you're like, I happened to meet her on a plane, and then this, and you know, and I met her through friends as well, and it's just incredible. Some people they're just 100% meant to be in your life, and some people are just 100% not meant to be in your life. And
then get people like Kelly that wish that wasn't in his life.
But once you can understand that and accept it, right? And you guys have all come together and you support each other, and you're like, you seem like family to me.
Yeah, we definitely are.
Yeah.
Yep.
For me to stay out of where I came from is to continue going to and being in recovery and going to meetings every day. I am so deeply involved in my program that I don't have any spare time. Mm-hmm. I probably spend more time in my recovery program than I do with work, and that's the 8-hour gig.
Yep.
But when
and Chris is the same way, and Chris and Glenn have that in common. So everybody finds their path to sobriety. Everybody's path is different.
Mm-hmm.
Some people have commonalities, like Chris and Glenn.
Right.
I didn't do any programs. I'm just over. I'm done.
Yeah, I just decided.
Okay.
I had court ordered programs, but the second I was done with those, I was done.
Yeah, and Kelly and I were very similar in that. Like, there's a switch.
And your inner strength is so unique because a lot of people just don't have that. Like you were saying, you see the people coming back again and again, and you find this inner strength that just guides you to like your sobriety, for example.
I spend a good part of my time helping other people, and that's where the joy comes for me. Is offering other people hope that they don't have to live that way, so that they don't live his way.
Yeah.
Simple.
So it's a great point, and that's one of the things that. So service is huge. For me, the thing that helps me with all of that trauma, any of that stuff, is I built this opportunity, and once I built the opportunity that worked, then being able to share that opportunity with all these guys. And we've had probably 30 people come through this company over the last 7 or 8 years. Ex-convicts that have gone on to have successful careers, get better jobs, doing different trades. So
we've had others that just didn't work.
On
the streets again.
Yeah, but I mean,
but you gave them a chance.
Yeah,
there's guys that don't want to help themselves.
Right. And we run them up pretty quick too. But we're a little brutal about our approach to sobriety.
Sure, I can understand why.
Yeah, like the door gets closed and we take somebody out back, and you got two options, bro. Which one's it gonna be?
Well, it has been an absolute honor to meet all of you, to be in your presence, to hear your stories, and
thanks for having us, Doctor.
Yep, thanks for having us.
And so, Matt, with all of these companies that you have, can you please let all of us know, our listeners, where to find you and how to subscribe to anything that you have going on in social media? We
have, it's evobuildsnv.com. So it's evobuildsnv.com is the new up-and-coming website. The old website is evoartnv.com. So www.evoartnv.com. Those are the two main websites. When you go to the Evo Art website, you can click on, we have a YouTube channel that's pretty entertaining where just take videos of some of the shenanigans of us out in the back building stuff, and there's some high comedy, and we've gotten a fair amount of views. We've got an Instagram page. You can go to my personal Facebook page, which is Matthew Byron, and friend me if you want or not.
And do you have an email and a phone number?
Email is mjbyron@evobuildsnv.com. And the phone number is 702-752-1639.
Would you guys like to give out your information? And if there's any, they're like, you can just call him. Call him and then we'll see what we can get involved.
Shoot him first.
Oh my God. Well, Juvenile Justice Impact, we are www.impactjji.com, and you can email us at juvenilejusticeimpact@gmail.com, or you can call us at 800-JJI, or 888-JJI-0010. So it's been great, guys. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you, Matt, for the tour. I thought I felt like I was on a school field trip. That's a pretty massive place you have here, and just congratulations, all of you personally and professionally. And It's just been an honor, and thank you so much. And it sounds like you also give back to the community, so thank you for that as well. And so, well, find us on YouTube, subscribe, and we'll see you again. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.